Oh, that was your pack.
Your microphone fell off.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Good afternoon, Web Summit. My name is Fatima Zaidi, and my company is called 88. We are Canada's first and only tech marketing agency. And I'm very excited to be moderating this next panel on what kind of a leader does a high-growth startup need. We have today to share their insights. We have an incredible lineup of entrepreneurs and founders. First up, we are joined by Kirsty Emery Laws. She's the co-founder and Chief Customer Success Officer of Unmade, where she channels her expertise in production and delivery to make sure that customers get the most out of Unmade's innovative software technology. We are joined by Robert Viz, who is the founder and CEO of MessageBird, which is an Amsterdam-based cloud communications platform that in 2017 raised the largest ever investment round by a European software company, 60 million, led by a US-based accelerator and a UK-based Atomico. And last but not least, we are joined by Edward Tang, who is the visionary and co-founder behind Avegant, which is a next-generation augmented reality display company. Avegant has produced award-winning retinal imaging technology to help light field displays and continues to solve consumer AR challenges. So why don't we give a quick round of applause for our panelists for joining us today. Off the back of those introductions, we certainly have the most qualified entrepreneurs here to help us answer the question, what kind of a leader does a high-growth startup need? So Ed, Robert, and Kirsty, is there a one-size-fits-all policy when it comes to leadership for a high-growth startup, or is there room for versatility? And we'll start on this end over here, and we'll just go.
I think as a company grows through multiple stages, there's so many challenges depending on where you are, right? Where you are, what the size of your company is. There's certain things that don't change. I think we spend a lot of time focusing on the team, building the right culture, building the right people, as well as the strategy. I think those are things that we've been very consistent on over the years.
Yeah.
And even though we go through many different phases of growth, depending on the market, depending on the technology, depending on fundraising and our customers, keeping the team together, keeping a great culture of the team, and focusing on a consistent long-term strategy has always been really key for us, at least.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't think my microphone's working.
Oh,
I think his mic needs to be adjusted.
shall I go? Well,
Yeah,
you're
for
getting
sure.
yourself
It
sorted.
was after you dropped your...
Oh, yeah. So, as you said, I'm a co-founder, so I'm one of three, and I think that one of our real strengths as leaders is the fact that there's three of us, and we all bring completely different skills to the role of leadership. And it's something that I've seen really interesting how it's changed as we've grown as a company, because there's still parts which are absolutely relevant that we hold as a three, such as the culture and how we build our company around us, but then bringing in other experts and other experience, so our CTO or our sales director, or also anybody else through our team and their experience and what they bring to the leadership of the company. It's not just about us who lead the company anymore, it's then how that works across the whole team. So how does our leadership then lead the company? And then equally through the whole company is how can everyone lead themselves to an extent and be inspired and understand what our key goals, our mission and vision, and really understand and live that.
Right.
I don't know. I think tech is breaking down on me. Doesn't sound like it still works. Test 1, 2, 3. Hey, it works.
Woo!
That's okay. So what was the question? No,
The question was,
I remember.
Is there one size fits all policy, or is there room for versatility?
I think you always have to adapt as a leader. You have to be a very different leader when the company's 5 people or 50 people or 200 people. That's the stage we're at now. And probably, that's why my mic broke. And probably you have to be, again, a very different leader when you're at 1,000 people or 2,000 people. So I think you always have to adapt to the situation that you're in. You also have different types of leaders. You have people that are very sales-led. You have technology leaders, so more tough, more emotional. I think it really depends on the company and the person that you are, and you should always just be yourself.
You know, Kirsty, I was recently reading an article where Unmade was recognized as UK's top 100 most creatively led companies. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Based off of your most recent success, are there any tangible tactics that you would recommend when it comes to a company evolving and leadership and how to maintain that culture?
So we do different things all the time, and I think the most important thing is that it's constantly evolving what we do to change our culture. So there's some things that we've always done, which like the classic like stand-ups, beginning, end of week, stuff like that, daily stand-ups. But then there's also looking at like what are you actually doing and achieving, which I think like when you're building particularly like a software product, and like yes, you have launches, but kind of like your launches don't always link up to actually like what you're developing with your software. So something that we've been really concentrating on recently is celebrating all of our internal wins. Like where have we come in the last 3 months? Okay, when we like launched something kind of similar to this last year, what was it like compared to this year? And like really understanding like what have you achieved, and like all those little things that you like really quickly forget because someone's just like, oh, well, I quickly made this really cool thing, which just makes this bit easier. And then it kind of like, it gets sucked into everything, and everyone forgets that actually it was a massive pain in the ass doing that thing before, and now it's really simple. So it's about kind of like taking all of those things and really remembering to celebrate
Right.
as well.
So Ed, I know that you helped grow Avegant from a 2-person company to a 50-person company, at which point you stepped in as CEO. And as all startups, there were some organizational changes along the way. So how do you feel that a leader's role changed? You were always a co-founder, right? So how do you feel a leadership's role changes as the company grows and goes through those organizational changes?
You know, for us, we wanted to be responsive to what the market was looking for, right? So when I first started this company, I was the original CEO of the company, and we had developed the technology to a point where we're ready to launch a consumer product. And that's when we decided to bring in a product, basically a CEO with more product experience, and I was always kind of running the technology and strategy side as we had someone to help us execute. But as the market started to change, we realized that our real value and what people were really interested in our company was the core technology itself, which is when we decided to focus on solely the display technology, which is ultimately what all our customers want anyway. It's the real value of our company. So by focusing more in our inside internally on where we thought the exciting opportunities were and where the real value of our company was, it gave me an opportunity to basically step back in and really focus on these exciting bits, right? And so that's why we are focused on our augmented reality technologies now. It's where the industry really wants us to be at. And it's amazing that when your strategy works, you get so much feedback from the market, right?
Yeah.
When instead of fighting these uphill battle, it kind of becomes a positive feedback loop, where every step you're taking, you're being pushed further ahead again. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm much more of a technical CEO, and there are a lot of different types of CEOs, but it depends a lot on the type of company you have. You know, are you a sales-focused company, a marketing-focused company, or a technology-focused company like we do? And even within technology, there's hardware and software, right? And we're a hardware company, which tends to be a lot more challenging.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of raising money, I think we've all been there with challenges in startups and raising funds. And you know, I'm currently going through it. Robert, you bootstrapped MessageBird for 6 years and turned down numerous investors along the way. Is it important to raise funding, or important to raise funding from the right investors?
I mean, I think it's always important to raise funding from the right investors. It's actually, we were, just talking about Y Combinator. It's one of the first things they tell you is, you're going into a marriage you can't get out of, which is probably the biggest difference with your board members. So I would, we've been very fortunate, but I would still choose the right board member any day of the week above A-list name investors or anything else.
If I could add to that, I think a lot of people don't really understand how critical it is to have the right board members and the right board composition, and it makes a world of difference. And like you said, if you get the wrong person in the boardroom, it's really challenging to fix that
100%.
situation.
100%.
Yeah, I also think that you want people to be really helpful. So people worry a lot about the amount of money that they can raise, which really is not a metric in itself at all. You should always raise enough money for you to build whatever you're building. A lot of dilution is bad for well, first of all, dilution is bad for your own pocket, and second, dilution is bad for your say in the company. and all sorts of things. But you want to find a board member that can be helpful. You know, if you're in building something for self-driving cars, you probably want somebody from the car industry. Or if you're in communications, you probably want investors that have done something in communications before. Like those things really help in terms of network and experience. And the worst thing that could happen to you is to have a board member from this really cool VC, but that ends up being completely not helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's interesting because Kirsty and I were talking about this earlier in the break, and we chatted about, do you have to be a ruthless leader when your company gets to a certain stage, or is there room to be compassionate while maintaining your culture? And, Kirsty, you actually had a really interesting answer that I'd love for you to share with our audience, and then I'll ask Ed and Robert about their thoughts as well on that.
Yeah, sure. So when you posed the question to us, my immediate question back was what do you mean by ruthless?
Yeah.
Because the definition of ruthless, you take no pity, you really cut stuff back. And as a company, we were set up by 3 friends originally. It's how we started, and that kind of still affects a lot of how we work as a company. And one of our main rules of when we started up is we were no dickheads. That's our basic rule. And whether that is picking who we work with for investors, or when we're working with our anyone who we bring onto our team, it's something that's constantly that we're always looking at and we're always looking for, because we don't want to kind of be in a situation where we're working with people who aren't. We're all supposed to be working towards the same goal, and we believe that that is where everyone starts. It's not about kind of coming in and cutting people out and being really harsh. There's no kind of fool me once, fool on you, fool me twice, fool on me. We don't take fools, but it's not how we want to run our company. It's not how we want to experience our everyday. It doesn't fit in with our culture, so it's not something that we actively make a decision.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you say no dickheads, we say no assholes, but it comes down to
the same thing.
It comes down to the same thing. Also a YC thing, by the way. No, I think first of all, you should always be compassionate as a person. So just in life, I think it's important to be compassionate.
Yeah.
But, I do think you have to be able to give, and I also agree with you that ruthless is just the wrong word, because you just have to give people straight feedback on how they're performing. And not everybody performs at the same stage. When you're a small company, some people are really good at the early stage and then sort of tap out as soon as you need to put in process and structure and things like that, and that's totally okay. And I think you should always be having that type of conversation with your employees, that whatever job that they have, they might not, you should be compassionate about giving people the opportunity to grow by providing them coaching or leadership or leadership training, or having good OKRs and QPRs to make sure that they develop. But the reality is not all people are cut out to continue to scale. People don't always scale, and at that point you should just be straight to them. But I think ruthless is too much.
Yeah, I think it's honesty and clarity. That's what you need for your team.
I love it.
While you build.
Honesty and clarity.
Yes.
Ed, what are your thoughts on that?
I generally agree. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're all people, right? And you have all these people working for you. So you definitely have to be compassionate and give direct feedback about everything, right? And not just feedback to your team, but also feedback up as well, 360-degree feedback. But one of the key things about a startup, one of the key advantages about being at a startup is the fact that you're very agile, fast, efficient, and you need to embrace that advantage. And a lot of times that means taking risks. It means making fast decisions, or making decisions without all the information or data in place. And maybe ruthless isn't the right word, but
acting on instinct.
But you need to be able to make those type of decisions, right? And I think having a team, having the right culture that embraces risks, embraces speed, embraces decision making without all the facts, is a great thing, right? And as long as you don't tolerate jerks, and you don't hire jerks, and you don't want to be a jerk, then that's, no matter how brilliant they are, then that's fine, right?
I think we have
time. This is Europe versus the US here. Yeah. It's the assholes and the dicks and the jerks.
Yeah, it just gets nice.
I'm in Silicon Valley, it's fine.
It's the beauty of having such a diverse panel. So I think we have time for one last question today. when I was reading all of your bios and doing my background research, everyone talked about your successes and everyone talked about the point to which you've gotten today, but nowhere did I read about the failures and the perseverance, which I'm sure there was a ton of.
Oh, there's no failures.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's smooth sailing, right?
So to leave everybody on a high note today, what role did failure and perseverance play in the kind of leader that you've evolved and become today, and how important was that in your success?
I don't know if it's a failure, but it's something that I certainly wish that we'd done sooner. Was like when we first started out and we went into Techstars and we got like an amazing funding round and we were like, this is incredible. We started to build our company, and essentially we've been given like all of this money and responsibility to 3 people who'd never run a company before, and we didn't know really how to manage people. And we then got a management coach. And like, if I could give like one piece of advice to anyone, is it's never too early to get a management coach, and the amount that you will learn from them, because we realized there were so many things that we were doing where we weren't being honest and clear to our team. And we didn't mean to be, it's just that we didn't know how to communicate those things. So that is one of the biggest learnings I've made. And it also applies to all of your customers and your partners as well. As soon as you can be clear and honest and learn how to communicate and explain your position on things, the better.
See, I don't think you should stop and wonder too much about your failures, to be honest. So there's been like a million things that have gone wrong, and you sort of wake up the next day and you move on, which I would say that's probably the #1 thing that you always want to do. You shouldn't dwell on things that go wrong. Your platform goes down 5 times in a week. That really sucks. Move on. Like, fix it, go and move on. Somebody calls you names and employees unhappy. You get bad reviews on Glassdoor. Like, I don't know. Like shit happens, and you move on and you learn from it and you do better each time. I don't think there's a set playbook for a startup, because to your point, stuff's happening every single day. You're being agile. You're making decisions. Sometimes you make good decisions. Sometimes you make bad decisions. I do agree with you very much on the coaching. I think coaching actually for everybody is super important, not just for yourself, but also for your employees, especially once you start scaling quickly, because you get like first-time leader problems where like people are being too nice, or you're not firing quick enough, or you're not hiring quick enough, or like things like that. So I don't know, if I had to pick one, I would say hiring and firing is the most critical thing. You want to hire fast, you want to fire fast.
I mean, all of us have probably literally made a million mistakes, right? I don't even know where to even begin from a failure or mistake standpoint, or really like what defines success in that matter. I mean, we're still all growing companies, right? I mean, you make a million decisions a day. A lot of them are going to be wrong. Mm-hmm. You just got to keep going, right? I think a lot of it is perseverance, right? Don't let things get you down. You're going to make mistakes, accept it, fix things, and keep going. And that could be, hiring and firing is a problem, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
Fundraising strategies, finding the right investors, getting the right terms, building a board. I mean, these are all things as, especially as first-time founders, but even beyond that, these are huge challenges, and there's going to be problems, I guarantee. And there's going to be serious problems. But you just have to keep going. You just got to push through it. You just got to fix it, keep going.
So I think that's all we have time for today, but I want to personally thank each and every one of our panelists for joining us today. Your advice has been invaluable, and it was a privilege sitting across from you. And to everybody else, thank you so much for attending our track. We hope you enjoyed it, and have a wonderful rest of the conference.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.